Still to this day, I cannot even share this story without getting emotional because how do you know that God is real? This is a trend that was going on TikTok for a while, and I wanted to give some examples. And this ties into my story of how I converted to Islam, or why I converted to Islam. The girl who introduced me to Buddhism, she became a born-again Christian. And what happened to her was, during the pandemic, her father was about to pass away, and he was on hospice, and they wouldn't let her into the nursing home because of what was happening. So she went to drive to the parking lot, and she sat in the parking lot for the night, and she just had a feeling. She just had a feeling that he was going to go soon. And she sees a huge light come. She sees an angel come to his window and go inside of his room. So I have goosebumps talking about it. She calls me immediately and she's freaking out. Now, I had had this experience before when I was a kid. I shared this in part 1. And the next day she convinced them to let her come inside. They had her put on like a whole, suit, and she goes inside, and sure enough, he passes away the very next day. Now, I've had so many paranormal experiences. One in particular, I had a friend in New York City who I had met her boyfriend once. I shook his hand. I knew nothing about this guy other than that they were dating. The night I shook his hand, I went home and I had a dream that he attacked her in my kitchen, and there was a little girl in between them. And I ran out, grabbed the girl, took her to the bathroom, and I woke up gasping for air. And I called her right away and I said, I had a really terrifying dream last night, and I told her about it. And she laughed it off. She said he was harmless. He would never do anything to hurt her. Well, a month later, she finds out she's pregnant. He doesn't want her to have the child. He attacks her in his kitchen. She remembers my dream. She runs to the bathroom, calls the police, and calls me from the hospital and said, all I could think about was that dream you had. She ended up having a daughter who looked exactly like the little girl from my dream. And in Islam, it says that when we go to sleep at night, our soul does not belong to us, that our soul will travel throughout the universe. And I've had many experiences where I could tap into other things when I would fall asleep. It's like my soul would travel, and I guess you could call it astral travel. And I never tried to do this. It would just happen to me. And people would ask me, how do you do this? How do you know things, that you shouldn't know? Because oftentimes that would happen. I would know things before they would happen, or I could see things about people's lives and then tell them about it, and they would be like, how did you know that? And I wasn't doing it intentionally. It's just, I'm extremely intuitive. And I think women, we have this gift of being able to travel through both dimensions. And so I knew that there was something, there's a creator, there's something out there that is the most amazing orchestrator of all things. So the experience with the angel touched her so much that she ended up leaving the Buddhist practice and becoming a born-again Christian like her father was. Now, at the same time, I had a gentleman who reached out to me on TikTok and asked me if I had ever looked into Islam, because a lot of what I was talking about was very similar to what they believed. And that was the one religion I had not looked into. And he told me that Islam is about the worship of one God, the belief in one God, La ilaha illallah, and that God, the one God, is the only being that is worthy of worship. Now, that really resonated with me because I had a really difficult time believing that Jesus was God. I went to church, it never resonated. It didn't feel right in my soul. Like I just couldn't vibe with it. I liked going to church sometimes because, again, I loved the music. The music is amazing in church. The vibes, the energy is great. And I respect people who believe this. And I wish that Christians would respect Muslims as well, because oftentimes I'm being harassed by Christians for my beliefs. And I respect people who believe this, but I just don't. I never have. I tried, I studied, I even went to Christian counseling to try to understand this concept, and it just didn't sit right in my soul. So when I found out that Islam is the last religion of the three monotheistic religions, and that it believes in the prophets before, and that the belief of Islam is really just the belief in one God and one creator, that really resonated with me. So I thought, I can vibe with that. And he kept asking me, can I send you an English version of the Quran? But I was traveling at the time, so I didn't have an address to send him to. And he asked me if I would want to convert. And I said, you know, if I ever move to the Middle East, I'll think about it. I thought if I do convert, I would want to do it in the land of where Islam began. So it was the summer of last year, and I went through a very difficult breakup, and I decided I was going to move to Vienna, Austria. I had had some friends who ran the Vienna Opera Ball in New York City, and I had just gone to the Opera Ball, and I felt inspired, and I love music and culture and history. So I show up in Vienna, and I befriend a Saudi diplomat. And I used to go have dinner with him and his mother. And the one thing I love about Muslims, from living in a Muslim country and being around a lot of Muslims now, they don't push their beliefs on you. They don't tell you, you should become Muslim, you should believe this. Like, they're so respectful of other people. And my friend knew that I was Buddhist, and he never tried to tell me I was wrong or speak against what I was doing. And I greatly admired his mother. She was so kind. They were so inviting. They would make me dinners and take me out for dinners. And they were just so kind and inviting. Like, Saudi people, every time I have met a Saudi person, they treat you like family. Like, they're so warm and welcoming. And his mother would leave the room and go pray, and she would fast almost every day. Every time I was with her, she would be fasting, and they would offer me, you know, dates and share their cultural food with me. And she would be watching the religious channel, and she had this deep love and devotion for Allah. And I was curious, and I told him, you know, I was curious about Islam, and the both of them kept encouraging me to move to Dubai. They said, you should really go to Dubai, check it out. They invited me to Riyadh to visit Riyadh and to meet people there as well. But they encouraged me to go to Dubai first. So when my visa was up in September, I decided I was going to book a trip to Abu Dhabi, and I'm going to finish my story of my dream with Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, and how everything just came back full circle in Dubai.